All right. And we are live for another live streaming episode of Alternative Money Mondays. Thanks for joining, everybody. Great to have you. My name is Jeremy, your usual host here, co-founder of Ledgerama, the makers of Walla Wallet, the safest, the original, and the most trusted wallet in the HBAR ecosystem. Again, thanks everybody for being here. Happy to be joined by some of our usual panelists. My main man, Tim Mungai, our community manager in Kenya. Laurent Shumbusha, I believe he's hailing from Texas today and on most days. Great to have you, Laurent, as usual. My favorite influencer in the HBAR ecosystem, Brandon the HBAR Bull. Glad to see you. Great to see that face again. And today's special guest. So we have a very special guest today. Super happy to introduce Coffee from the LeemonSwap team. So I hope everybody brought their thinking caps today because we're going to be getting into the weeds on some DeFi stuff and what LeemonSwap's all about. So I did do a Twitter poll, and it looks like people are wanting to get into the weeds. They said let's go deep, do the deep dive, no fluff. So that was the majority of it. There were some folks out there that didn't care one way or the other. They said, "Hey, we just love DeFi," and then there were some folks that said, "I need please, just the basics." But that was only a small percentage. So we'll probably get into a couple topics, a little basic, and don't forget. So at some point in the show. Every week now we're doing an HBAR giveaway. So at some point in the show, I'm going to give away a magic number. You take that magic number, you email it to info@wallawallet.com, and the first person to email the magic number to info@wallawallet.com is going to get the $25 in HBAR. And of course, we always do our weekly jam giveaway, 10,000 jam tokens going away to one of the members of our Twitter family. So don't forget about those. Stick around, audience members, because at some point you never know when we're going to announce the magic number. So stick with us. And of course, if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button, smash the subscribe, hit that announcement bell, and we'll see you next week. All right. So with that, before we jump into the guest of honor here and start really getting into the DeFi stuff, we'll do a quick market update with Brandon the HBAR Bull. So what have you got? So what's been happening over the past 7 days in these crazy markets, Brandon?
Sure. I'll be happy to talk about it. Now, of course, it's not financial advice. It should be used for entertainment or educational purposes only. But with that being said, the big news over the past week was the Federal Reserve came out with their expected 0.75 interest rate hike. That was to be expected, but it was their hawkish rhetoric that came after that, saying that interest rates were going to have to be higher for longer. I'm not sure how they know that, but to get inflation under control. So that was one of the things that they mentioned, and risk assets did not like it. So stocks took a dump because of that. Crypto was under pressure, but crypto actually held up a lot better than the rest of the risk asset complex. Bitcoin over the past 7 days is down about 2%. It's flat over the past 24 hours. We have HBAR is down about 2.5% over the past 24 hours, but is actually up about 2.5% for the week. And that puts us just about 6%. I think we're actually at about 5.9 right now, sitting just above support. We have fairly good support down between 5.5 cents to 6 cents. So we're right in that range right now. I'm looking at the 50-day moving average for potential resistance, and that's to about 6.6 cents right now. We did from Coinbase have a pretty good pump. What was it? Almost 2 weeks ago, we had the announcement that they were going to list, or that they were actually going to be listing that day or the following day, and we got a really good pump out of that. But unfortunately, due to some technical issues, they had to postpone that. They've postponed it to mid October, I believe. So we're going to be looking out for that. I expect to see a pump when that gets announced again. So we're going to be keeping a pretty close eye out for that. And that's pretty much all I got on the market side of things. But I'd be more than happy to go into a few other headlines because we had a fair amount going on last week.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do some headlines. But yeah, the FUD, yeah, you mentioned the Coinbase thing, and FUDder's going to FUD, right?
Yeah.
So you see that, the FUD, there's always plenty of FUD floating around out there. And some of it I actually enjoy. I get my popcorn and, kind of eat some popcorn and watch the FUD as it rolls on by. But like you said in one of your tweets, Brandon, FUDder's going to FUD, but builders just keep on building. So,
right.
You can count on teams like Ledgerama and I know LeemonSwap. I don't think you guys are planning on slowing down anytime soon. Are you, Coffee?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so. All right, so let's get some of those headlines, Brandon. What's new in the past week or so?
Sure. So there's a fair amount. We did have one of those investor pitch events just last week where we were focused on privacy related use cases. We had three. We had fiduciary data, we had Tomb Technologies, and oh my gosh, the last one slipped my mind, but they did a fantastic job. We have another one of those coming out on the 13th, and I know, or on October 13th, and I know Ledgerama did one before, so people can come out for that. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is FIS, WorldPay, the largest payments processor in the world. It pretty much announced a use case on Hedera, and it's called proof of reserves. So they have allowed now the settlement of their payments in USDC. Now, those can be on several different platforms, of course, Ethereum and Binance Chain, and of course Hedera. But what they're specifically doing with Hedera is when one of those transactions takes place and they have to mint the USDC, they prove that they sent the reserves to Circle to add to the reserves. So proof of reserves, right? And they're tracking that with HCS. So again, it's another enterprise level use case that's going to be coming out on Hedera. That's not immediate. That's going to be over the next few months, but they said it's going to be before the end of the year. The other thing is, of course, LG. I'm sure you guys have talked about that in recent weeks. Just last week, they added some functionality to their TVs for their NFT platform, and they also had a launch event in New York where they did a fantastic job with the artist Barry Ball, as well as Mance was up there. That was really exciting to see. And the other exciting thing that we had last week, we know that Google is one of the council members. They've done some written blogs and things like that talking about Hedera, but they haven't engaged with the community to this point until last week, that is. And just last Thursday, they did a Twitter space with Hedera where they came on and talked about their integration with Archaea. The main thing that I took away from this is they are focused on creating the tooling for the next 10 million developers in the Web3 space. That's what they're focused on. I'm sure they have use cases that they're thinking about, but they want to focus on those developers that are working in the Web3 space. They are using Hedera to obviously do that, and that's to bring the next billion users into the Web3 space in general. So 10 million developers to facilitate a billion users. So they aren't thinking small, not surprising with Google, but those were the big headlines over the past week.
Wow, well, Google got in the Twitter Spaces with Archaea. I'm guessing that's one of the foundation Twitter Spaces. How did I miss that?
It wasn't.
Oh,
it was
okay.
actually done by Hedera themselves. We were in talks to possibly do that Twitter Space, but it didn't work out. Archaea was the ones they were kind of negotiating, and I was also talking to Hashpack, who's also integrating with our Archaea, and Archaea decided to go with Hedera. No issues there, but maybe we'll catch them next time. I am going to talk to some of the Google guys because they said they enjoy doing stuff like that. So of course we're going to do everything we can to get more interaction with that team.
Cool. Great to see. Yeah. So with FIS and their proof of reserves application. I mean, it's great to see that all this stuff. So, Brandon, we've been in the space for a while. So back in 2020 at the Hedera 20 hackathon, we did a proof of action module. That was our entry for that hackathon. Basically it was just to prove that an action happened, right? So something very similar. We didn't get a whole lot of recognition or there wasn't a whole lot of chatter about this proof of action at the time. HCS, the Hedera Consensus Service being pretty new. But at any rate, it's awesome to see that. And I know for the folks that saw the live stream about the LG wallet, I was poking a little bit of fun at them just because I want to see. I don't want to just see websites and announcements. I want to see real action. I want to see use cases. I want to see them really pumping the network, and awesome to see that with the talk that they gave. Mance getting involved and actually rolling out some of the stuff. So awesome to see some of that positive news coming out there. Very cool.
And when we see big companies like Google investing so much money in such talent, then we know we're in safe hands. Such talent often produces great use cases, great support, and what's normally mind-numbing in the Web3 and crypto space in general is most things or dApps and usable. I mean, the user experience is difficult to understand some of the things. So when you find people investing in top talent to just make things as easy as possible, then that means things going mainstream, and Hedera mass adoption is really coming soon once we have that.
Oh yeah, that's what drew us into the ecosystem, into the Hedera ecosystem very early on. You know, I mean, both our CTO, my business partner, and myself. I mean, we came from the enterprise world. Both of us came from huge companies prior to our life in cryptocurrency, and we just saw. We know that, you know, say what you will about large corporations. There's a lot of bemoaning about that in the crypto space, but say what you will about them, they are going to bring talent. They're going to bring money. They're going to bring use cases. And so when we saw the Hedera Governing Council and what the value proposition it was for us, it was just kind of a no-brainer. So, so it's, you know, it takes a while, and I know people in the community get a little impatient of, you know, win. But it's awesome to see these kinds of things starting to roll out. So without further ado, let's jump into the main topic of the hour here. Let's talk about some DeFi. So joining us this week is Coffee from the LeemonSwap team. Super appreciative of having you on here. So just to kick it off a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the ecosystem, kind of a little bit of the why Hedera story, a little bit about LeemonSwap, and, you know, and what your goals are. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but, you know, because I know that folks want to jump into the, you know, they want to do the deep dive and really get into what LeemonSwap's all about. But if you could just kind of give us the 50,000-foot view for a second there, Coffee, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, you know, thanks for the invite. Great to be on here. Brandon, huge fan, so it's awesome to see you on here as well. Yeah, my journey kind of started a little bit before the pandemic, but it really took off during that time, which I think is pretty similar with some other people in the community. But that's when I really started digging into cryptocurrency and DeFi at large. You know, I took a lot of looks at other DLT platforms that had really popular DeFi protocols, specifically Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, PancakeSwap was one that I really found very interesting in my early days of research. And I kind of fell into this obsession with the different types of algorithms that are used for all these different chains and DLTs. And that's when I stumbled upon Hedera. And I think I can speak for the community that Harvard talk that Lehman Baird did was really the one that sold me on Hedera Hashgraph and Lehman Baird himself. And after that, it was, you know, I didn't want to go chasing for, hey, what's going to be the next popular thing for the sake of popularity. I wanted to look at what was going to be, you know, the longest lasting technology. And that's why I kind of latched onto Hedera Hashgraph. And in terms of DeFi, you know, obviously I had an interest in it prior to discovering Hedera, but I saw a huge hole in the market. And, you know, there's a lot of technology and code out there that people just don't have on Hedera yet. So the community at large is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of oblivious to what is possible. And, you know, I really wanted to show everyone like, hey, we can do exactly what they're doing on Binance Smart Chain, on Ethereum, on Solana. You know, there really isn't any limitations, especially now that they've rolled out all of the EVM capabilities on Hedera. So it kind of started as, you know, let's show the rest of the DeFi ecosystem that Hedera can also be a big player. And that's really what our goal is with LeemonSwap.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, DeFi is here to stay, and the more and more I talk to folks within the crypto in general and within the Hedera ecosystem, there's a lot of consensus that capturing the DeFi market is going to be, if not the key, one of the primary keys to the success of the network. So it's hugely important. And love that Harvard video of Lehman, right? That's the one that I share with all my friends. The ones that, if it's somebody that's, if it's one of my buddies that's like, they're not going to spend a lot of time with it, I give them like the governing council, the 3-minute sizzler, but if it's somebody that wants to go deep, I send them that Lehman at Harvard every time. Yeah. Cause that really does, it kind of sets the tone, and that was definitely one of the key factors for me coming into space too.
Yeah. I love how everyone knows though. You just say the Harvard talk and everyone's like, yep.
Yep, that's the one. Awesome. So everybody if folks that are out there in YouTube land, and panelists too, if you haven't read the LeemonSwap light paper, we're going to leave the link to that in the description below. But you got to read, even if it's pretty heady. I mean, even though it's a light paper, it's still pretty heady. But it gives an awesome, very in-depth, well written too. I don't know. I'm not sure if that was you, Coffee, or who wrote it, but the
oh
light
no, I
paper's
can't.
great.
I can't take credit for that. There was a lot of hands, a lot of hands in the cookie jar, so to speak.
Sure. Love the branding too. I mean, love the lemon head. Love LeemonSwap. I mean, you couldn't have picked a more trusted name in the Hedera ecosystem. So so great job on the branding there. And one of the things, I mean, there's tons of stuff in here. And so, with your permission, Coffee, we might do a part 2 of a second follow-up interview on this, because there are so many juicy topics in there and so much stuff to discuss that, I have a feeling that we might want to do 2 of these. But in any case, so one of the first things that I came across was this, the unique aggregator technology that you mentioned. You say in the paper that LeemonSwap routes all trades to always find the best prices for swaps by utilizing liquidity pools from every decentralized exchange, every DEX on Hedera. So, and he also mentioned that it has the capacity. So basically that it has the capacity to split a single swap into multiple swaps from different DEXs and liquidity pools to ensure the least amount of slippage possible. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the aggregator and slippage. So I know that this may be one of the basic topics for people that are already pretty established in DeFi, but I did want to touch on just a little bit of the basic terms. So can you talk a little bit about how the aggregator works and what is slippage?
Oh yeah, sure. So forgive me, the aggregator is pretty complicated.
Oh, sure.
So if there's any developers on here that know how they work, I apologize if it's too high level of an explanation. But really what the goal is of an aggregator is to share liquidity on the network so that the trade is the most efficient possible. So that has to do with fees and slippage, of course. Now, slippage is a direct result of the amount of liquidity as well as the pool type that you're using. So there's many different pool types, and we can get into that in a little bit. But
sure.
For a constant product pool type, which is the classic Uniswap V2 X times Y equals K, it's very dependent on liquidity. So if you have low liquidity, you're going to have high slippage for a larger trade. And slippage is basically a change in your expected price. So if I'm doing like, say, a stable pair, H bar USDC, and I trade $10,000 worth of H bar, I'm expecting $10,000 in USDC because it's pegged to $1. But depending on liquidity, that price can slip because the number of tokens is going to be affected. So you may get significantly less depending on how big the pool is. Now there's ways to mitigate that. Since Uniswap V2 came out, there's additional pool types, specifically concentrated liquidity or stable swap pools, and those are essentially used to try and reduce slippage and keep pricing somewhat stable. Now the aggregator can basically group all these pools into one trade, and it'll split out the liquidity in the most efficient way. It's always going to try and find the lowest combination of fees and slippage.
That's awesome.
So, as I
yeah, go ahead.
understand it, is these liquidity pools. If they are not large enough, then that means if you're going to buy to spend like $10,000 worth of HBAR for USDC. That means if the liquidity pool is a small, it means that will have a very high price impact. You will affect the price of the pair, and then that may translate to a slippage, a higher slippage. So I'm not. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct. I think the easiest way to think about it, instead of dollar terms, is percentages. So if you're trying to submit a trade that's a significant percent of the total pool liquidity, it's going to have an overall effect on the price of both of the underlying tokens. Since the constant product formula stipulates that the sum of the two reserves are going to stay constant over the duration of the trade.
The one thing that I like about this aspect is it shows like how we're kind of working together as DEXs, or you're willing to do that, because of course if you're splitting up the trade among the different DEXs, the rewards aren't all going to the LeemonSwap token or the Juice token. It'll be split up between the other DEXs that you're using for that liquidity, whether it's Hedera'S, whether it's Saucer Swap. So it just shows that you have the customer in mind, and that goes a long way.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we'll probably get the lowest fee out of each aggregated swap. So it really benefits everybody involved. And the more DEXs that come to the ecosystem, the better for everyone, including us. So it's going to definitely change the game, and I hope spark a huge uptick in the amount of decentralized exchanges that come online.
So in learning a little bit about the aggregators, it did kind of raise a big question to me, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but the centralized exchanges, your typical exchanges, seems like these sophisticated aggregators could do a lot to improve the efficiency of the markets in general. And I know that I know people might be mad at me for saying we need to reduce the arbitrage opportunities, but it seems like those arbitrage opportunities would kind of get smoothed out if the markets in general were using some kind of aggregate technology like this. Is any indication? I mean, is it simply be the nature of centralized exchanges that they want to keep everybody within their exchange? Is that kind of because if the technology is out there, it seems to me seems like a no-brainer that if we want efficient, mature markets, that these kind of aggregators would be implemented. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Any kind of quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what a centralized exchange is, it's in an order book, so it's a little different than a decentralized exchange that's all algorithm based. So I don't even think you could use an aggregator for a set of centralized exchanges just by the way it's set up.
Right.
I think everyone should be using an aggregator. From my understanding, it is very difficult to build. So I'm very lucky with the team that we have, being able to have this ability and the experience of doing it.
Right.
So do I think it's going to grow in popularity over time? Absolutely. It'll probably take a little bit of time because it's hard to build and it takes time. So I mean that's what we've spent most of our time on, is this aggregator.
Gotcha.
Speaking of teams, sorry, Jeremy. There's just a question from the audience. Speaking of teams, on the same note, how big is your team? This is a question from Brandon Saylor.
Yeah, right now we have probably 11 people on the team. The core team itself started at 3. We're hoping to grow that somewhat soon.
Right. Yeah. Small but mighty. It's similar numbers over at Ledgerama. Started off with just Rob and I. was just Rob and I for a long time. But you know, with some of the support we've gotten over the past few months, we're able to flesh out the team a little bit. And yeah, so small but mighty. Good to hear that.
Jeremy, I
Yeah.
do have a question when you
Yeah,
get a chance.
please, by all means, just jump right in there, buddy.
Yeah, so the question I have is, I read through your light paper, and I think it's, like Jeremy said, well done. I love how it's focused on tokenomics. I think that's really important. The one thing, when you focus on tokenomics like that, you add a lot of complexity. You know, you have your juice, you have your V juice, you have your VX juice. But right now in our DeFi ecosystem, we are ushering a lot of new users. How do you balance out, you know, somebody that's brand new to DeFi and then the complexity that might be necessary for focusing on the tokenomics as you have?
Sure. So really what we're trying to do with these different token types is to make it easier for users and be more hands-off. So VX juice holders, for I guess I should go into the different
Yes,
token types. So
absolutely. Yeah, so this was on the list. So this is a perfect segue into this. Yeah, so definitely this is, and for the folks that wanted to do the deep dive and get in the weeds, let's talk about juice, X juice, VX juice, toggled, you know, toggled VX juice, and all these great things. Let's do it.
Sure. So Juice itself is the platform token. It's mainly used for emissions and rewarding liquidity providers. So if you provide liquidity, you'll be rewarded over time in juice. You can then stake that juice, and that would be X juice. Now, I will say we have this 3 token model based off of our predecessor Astroport. So I don't want to take credit for this original idea. But then there's the time locked staked token, which is VX juice. Now there's 2 types of VX juice. There's untoggled and there's toggled. And that refers to the auto compounder. So if you want to use the auto compounder, it's toggled VX juice. If you don't, it's untoggled. If it's untoggled, your holdings in VX juice will divest in I think a fraction. I think we're doing 2 years, so 1/730 every single day. So that'll be taken out of VX juice and put into X juice. Now, both of these staked tokens can be used for our launchpad for you know, double staking. Basically, you can put them in these launchpad pools and earn those tokens as well. But I forgot the original question, Brandon. You were talking about complexity, right?
It adds a lot of complexity, and how do you balance, you know, the complexity needed to focus on tokenomics like this and the need to bring in new users that might be confused?
Right. So if you're somebody that isn't very familiar with DeFi, toggling your VX juice and earning passive income on that original investment, it's probably the easiest thing you can do. You don't have to worry about providing liquidity in a concentrated manner, you know, where you set your lower and higher bounds, and that can get confusing. So if you're somebody that is new and you want just a way to earn on your tokens, VX juice is definitely for you. So that was our thought process. It's like, how can we make it as easy as possible for people to come in and start earning passive income on their original investment, and, you know, make it very easy. And that was what we came up with. Now we will also have, I think they call it a snap feature, or no, zap feature on Spirit Swap. Basically where you just come in, if you have one token, say H bar, it'll create the LP tokens for you. So you don't have to do any swaps. It just kind of creates those tokens and stakes them for you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's another way that we're making it a little easier for users.
Awesome. So yeah, so okay, so now further down the rabbit hole, speaking of rabbit holes, let's go down the black hole and talk a little bit about the Juice Blackhole. So this is, so, of course, in looking at the looking at the kind of the tokenomics and token distribution chart, I went, ooh, what's the black hole? So anytime something like that, very catchy name. I like it. I'm intrigued. Anything that kind of that generates that sense of curiosity and makes people want to go further down the rabbit hole is a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about the black hole. I know you touched on it I know you were touching on it, but let's talk a little bit more about what that is.
Yeah, so we don't have a traditional treasury. The entire team's token allocations are all in toggled VX Juice. And so we wanted a way to extend our emission schedule kind of indefinitely. And what we came up with is utilizing the auto compounder for our quote unquote treasury. It's not really a treasury because it's not going to be used for development, and we can't just kind of pull out of it whenever we want unless we're adding to the emissions. So this quote unquote black hole is really just a place where these juice tokens go to just sit there and earn more juice tokens, essentially. And then in the future, after our emission schedule runs out, we can kind of extend the life of the emissions by pulling from this black hole as it earns interest on interest, basically. So the black hole itself is going to hold toggled VX Juice as those tokens earn from the sell tax as well as Juice itself. It'll basically buy back Juice and toggle it in VX Juice. So it'll just be a compounding black hole of toggled VX Juice. And as the emissions run out in the future, we'll pull straight from this black hole, and then it'll be basically auto-sustainable.
That is going to require some homework on my part. I'm going to have to do some more deep diving. I love it though. So last point I'm going to take a brief moment and I'm going to give out the magic number of the week. So first person to email us at info@wallawallet.com with the number 777, lucky sevens today, lucky number 7, 3 sevens is the magic number. So if the first person to email 777, you can do it in the subject or you can do it in the body of the email, doesn't matter. First one I get of those, that person's going to win $25 in HBAR. Probably be helpful if you include your account ID within the email. So just kind of wanted to take that brief moment to do our little giveaway. So so folks out there in the YouTube audience, claim your $25 in HBAR. All right. So, and that did get me to the next. So the next question on my agenda here was the auto juicer. All right. So can we talk a little bit about the auto juicer and what that? So I mean, this is a new some of these are new concepts. So let's do a little bit of digging.
Yeah. So the auto juicer is basically just an auto compounder, but we put a little spin on it. Typical auto compounders, they just buy back the platform token, and you grow interest on interest basically. With our auto juicer, you're buying back juice and then toggling it as VX juice. So it's kind of a continuation of your time lock indefinitely until you untoggle it, basically.
All right. And there was another question. So while they're, let's see. Okay, big question here. So this one came in from the HBAR Foundry. I understand how tokenomics are being used to incentivize certain behavior in order to generate demand, and I think we touched on this just a little bit, but it might have been kind of hidden in the details. How will the platform generate revenue for the long term? From my understanding, the swap fees will be very low, and also it would be nice to get you to go through the roadmap. Really excited about lending and borrowing. So lots of kudos coming in from the HBAR Foundry. But yeah, so this particular member said, I understand how the tokenomics are being used to incentivize certain behavior, but how will the platform generate revenue for the long term?
Sure. So the treasury itself is basically the Juice Blackhole. We will not be using that for any expenses on our part. Everyone on the team has a token allocation that is going to be held in Toggle VX Juice. So in terms of, the team's revenue, that's all from our token allocation. Now, in terms of future development, we're doing an NFT sale. In the future, we can probably hold additional NFT sales. We may actually come out with our own NFT line that would be for sale on our platform. And these NFTs would be associated with, certain perks or boosts that you can use on our platform. So this is kind of a new way to raise funds that people haven't really done multiple times in the past, but it is an option that we're looking at. But in terms of like overall expenses, it's more upfront than in the future. Obviously, when we go into derivative markets and a lending market, we're going to have to get additional audits and development costs, but it's relatively small compared to what we're building now. So we're going to be utilizing both our own funds from the revenue that we're getting from our Toggle VX Juice, and we may also include some additional NFT sales.
Now, you mentioned the fees are going to be really low, but from what I read, it was going to be 0.3%, which is pretty standard across the DeFi space, correct?
Yeah, so we're not trying to undercut the rest of the market. I think what he's talking about is the aggregator fee,
Sure,
which is 0.05, plus the stable swaps are relatively low at 0.05. We want to make those as efficient as possible, because we know that in DeFi, when you have a platform with a large stable pair liquidity, that ends up usually being the biggest platform. So bringing in liquidity for that stable swap coin, or however many we have, whether it's USDC, HBAR, USDC, Juice, that's our goal. So having a lower fee for that is beneficial for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem with the 0.3% because the beneficiary aren't some centralized exchange. The beneficiaries are the users themselves. So, the experience that I've had with DeFi, that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. And if you look at the fee split, let me pull it up right now. We're not taking a platform fee, so to speak. It's directly going to liquidity providers as well as XJuice and VX Juice holders. Now, obviously, we will have VX Juice, so that's where we're pulling in our quote unquote revenue.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
Coffee, this has been an awesome episode. Tim, were there any other questions that came in from the audience that we need to cover?
Negative. We do not have any.
Okay. All right. And I saw some emails flying in for our HBAR winners. Yeah, Laurent, please go ahead.
So with the Juice Blackhole and the Juice compound, there's no future plans for any token bans or anything like that?
Token burns? No. Essentially what we're doing with the black hole is taking it off the free market, increasing scarcity and hopefully buy pressure for the community itself. Hopefully those actions will appreciate the token price, but who knows what's going to happen. This is definitely a hypothesis, but in the future we're going to pull from that for emissions. So you could call them temporarily burned if that's a term, but essentially we're just putting them to the side off the market until we run out of emissions and then drawing from that black hole.
Interesting. So I'm guessing there will be a constant reward that will never decrease using, the black hole.
Yeah. So initially, we're setting aside 40% of our token supply for emissions. 10% is going to. Or wait, let me just pull up the pie chart so I don't mess any of these numbers up. 40% for rewards pool, and 10% is going to the Juice black hole. So over time, those emissions, after their schedule runs out, will be replaced with the Juice Blackhole, but that 10% will grow over time because of the auto juicer. So by the time the rewards pool runs out, you may have 20, 30% in that black hole. And that depends on how much sell pressure you have with the juice token, since there's a percentage taken as a sell tax that goes directly to VX juice holders. And I just want to say that the whole concept of a sell tax is very frowned upon. Typically, it's very it's utilized a lot in Binance Smart Chain deflationary models, and a lot of people, it kind of puts a bad taste in their mouth. But the way that we're using it directly benefits both people that are selling as well as people that are holding, and that's because it increases scarcity. It encourages people to hold on to their tokens, lock them in perpetuity, and that'll benefit the underlying token price.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to do it. I can't wait to see a demo of all this stuff. So I'm like on the edge of my seat here. So Brandon's been getting me excited about DeFi over the past month. I mean, I've been, finance is in my blood. Grandfather was a banker, and but it's one of those rabbit holes that I've kind of had the blinders on, focused on executing on these contracts. And it's Brandon and I have talked about this before, that sometimes it feels like the stuff that you were interested in and the reason you jumped into crypto in the first place, once you get these projects rolling, you're so focused on your own project that it's hard to kind of pull in all that information that's floating around in the rest of the crypto space. But yeah, so look forward to the demos. And Coffee, thanks so much. You've been a real champ. I mean, obviously a great mind to be able to take these questions on the fly and do a fantastic job. I mean, this is a pretty heady topic. So can't thank you enough for being here and sharing all this with the audience. And hopefully we get a chance to bring you back, if not next week, maybe the week after, whenever time allows, because there's so much more juicy stuff to talk about with the launchpad, the governance, the NFT presale. I mean, I know people are going to want to talk about the NFT presale. They're going to want to talk about the launchpad. Governance is, we always have our eyes on governance here in the Hedera ecosystem, and I know that that's a big part of the DeFi ecosystems as well.
Yeah, I would love to talk about all of that. I got no problem coming back on. If I could just do a shameless plug.
Please, shameless plugs. We love shameless plugs.
Yeah, so check out our website, follow us on Twitter, join our Discord if you got any questions. Please read our light paper. It's dense, but there's a lot of information in there. We are doing an NFT pre-sale probably the beginning of October at some point. We haven't finalized that date yet.
Okay.
And we are also doing an airdrop and boosts for anyone that holds a Creamies NFT as well as a Dead Pixels Ghost Club NFT. So
Nice.
if you guys are part of that community, I hope you're paying attention, because you don't want to miss your chance at getting some juice.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll definitely Coffee. We're definitely going to leave links. So we're going to in the description, we'll leave links to your to the Twitter page, website, all that good stuff. Anything that you want us to share with the community, happy to put those links in the description.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and absolutely, just really looking forward to the next conversation, and looking forward to having some time to do more deep dives, because I'm starting to get excited about DeFi now.
Well, you better hurry,
Juice is
because
flowing.
we're going to come out with our white paper soon too. So it's just
Okay.
going to start stacking up on your desk over there.
Right. Yep. I'm going to have to start burning through it, but that's all right.
Yeah.
It gives me, so I'm taking time. I'm setting the time aside to actually do the things that I'm interested in. So. Because it's an important part of the business too. So, all right. So if there's any other questions from the panel, of course, we're happy to take them. If not, I'm going to roll over to Tim and get our 10,000 jam token winner for the week. We're going to give away some tokens, my favorite part of the show.
Yeah, so we have Olympus Oli at Olympus Oli. We'll make the official announcement on Twitter and reach out to you, and then we'll give you a set of instructions to obviously associate the token, the jam token ID. Then we get the transaction done. So awesome. We're going to reach out to you, Olympus. Congratulations, by the way.
All right, love it. All right, so that's going to be it. We're going to wrap up another episode of Alternative Money Mondays. Thanks again for the panel joining us. Myself, I'm Jeremy from the Walla Wallet team. Appreciate everybody being here. And don't forget, folks, if you're out there watching, whether you're in the live stream, whether it's later on, leave us a comment. Let us know what you liked about the show, what you didn't like about the show. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Give us a subscribe. Check that, and smash that announcement button, all that good stuff. But the most important thing, of course, are the comments. Keep the comments flowing. If you don't want to leave it on YouTube, send us an email, follow us on Twitter, enter that chance to win the 10,000 jam tokens every week. We're doing it every week, and we're going to keep doing this $25 HBAR giveaway as well. So don't let that $25 sit on the $25 worth of HBAR. Don't let that sit on the table, folks. So thanks again. We will see you next Monday. And in the meantime, have a great week and be safe out there, everybody. Talk to you
Thanks
next
again,
time.
Jeremy.
All right. Thanks, Coffee. See you next time.
See you guys.
Hey, do you have a moment?